The dynasty continues.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. You just heard the Patriots beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. That will be our first topic for today. What went wrong with the Rams? Then we're going to get into Chuck Pagano going to the Bears, which is a little late news. Antonio Brown, if he'll be traded or not, and then we're going to go over some free agent fits. So with that, Reece, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, the consensus was it was a pretty dull game when it came down to it.
It really sucked.
Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't attention grabbing at all. I'd say the last few minutes when the Patriots closed it out were probably the most exciting parts. Definitely that touchdown winning drive that Tom Brady conducted and Sony Michel finished off was definitely the best drive of the game, the most entertaining part of the game because we actually got a touchdown out of it. I think the majority of people thought we were definitely going to get a few touchdowns from each team in this game, given they're both pretty high caliber offenses. But the Patriots, and I think Sean McVay really put it the best way. The Patriots and Bill Belichick just simply outcoached them. They slowed the Rams down. They controlled the game from front to back. I don't think there's really any doubt the Patriots were going to lose that game. They had it in hand. Tom Brady sealed it out, and they really just kind of played old school football to just, wear it down and seal off the game.
The stark contrast between this year's Super Bowl and last year's Super Bowl is remarkable. Last year probably had one of the most interesting Super Bowls I've ever watched. Nick Foles, Tom Brady going toe-to-toe to the last minute and then ending in that final strip sack of Tom Brady. This one was pretty terrible. I mean, yeah, I was pretty bored the entire time. I know I forgot to say in the beginning of the show that Ryan is not with us this week. He's still trying to recover from that loss, and he also has some other
matters.
Matters he has to tend to right now. So so he won't be with us, but me and Reece have the show. But going back to it, I think the Patriots really just came in with a very interesting game plan, as Bill Belichick always does. Something that I noticed a lot in the beginning is Belichick was giving a lot of unique looks in the beginning and a lot of just weird coverages, weird lineups, and it was very interesting. Something that I've really not seen Bill Belichick do all that much. And then he also, I read online that they blitzed one of the most amounts they have all year in this past game. It was something like 46% of the snaps, which is pretty insane. And I really think that Belichick's strategy was to get Jared Goff flustered in the beginning until it got out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, let me say this. I think one part that's really interesting was I think the Patriots really had that free reign to blitz. They started with the beginning of the game and kept going with it because the Rams refused to run the football. I think everyone was a little, taken back by how little they gave Todd Gurley the ball. I think he only had 9 carries or something like that, or 9 touches in general. So that's really rough, and that's a team that really centered the game around Todd Gurley, at least earlier in the season. And the Patriots were allowed to keep bringing pressure on Goff, and I think maybe I got a little carried away with myself in the middle of the season when we talked about on this podcast about Jared Goff, and I said, well, he's really coming into his own. I think you had it probably the best, and maybe this is a bit of an overreaction after we talk about the Super Bowl, and it's easy to say hindsight's 20/20 and start making vast generalizations. But I think that Jared Goff is a system quarterback that's probably driven by his coach completely. I don't really think he is someone that's going to come in these clutch game situations and exactly handle a game. I think we saw that in this past game. Maybe we'll see with more experience come on because I think Sean McVay is going to be a good coach in this league for a long time. I'm sure he'll make another Super Bowl or 2 or 3. But, we'll see if Jared Goff is quarterbacking those teams and if he can eventually come through for them.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I've been a big Goff supporter for pretty much the majority of the year. I think that he's got a lot of potential. But he really looked flustered during this past game. I know some people online are even comparing it, which it isn't, but they're comparing it to the Rex Grossman Bears Super Bowl. It's not. It wasn't that bad, but still, there were multiple times where I saw him about to make a pass and then get flustered in the pocket and pull it down and then be like, oh crap, I actually could have thrown it. So then he goes to throw it again. Stuff like that really kind of worries me when it comes to Goff. Goff is, even Ryan admitted it, he's more of a one-read quarterback and more of a scripted quarterback. And, there's a lot of quarterbacks in the league that have made a very good career off of that. But when it comes down to games where you have the ball in your hand, like the Super Bowl, it's not, you don't want to really be that way. And I think that kind of what the Patriots did and a lot of the teams that beat them this year, including the Bears, is they gave it the ball to Goff and they said, be a drop back passer. You're not going to be a rhythm passer. You're going to be a drop back passer and you're going to have to beat us that way. That being said, I still think that he has a lot of potential. He's still really young and he is relatively inexperienced in the offense still. Who knows how many years, and he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But Ryan's going to kill me for saying this, but when I was watching the Super Bowl, the one thing I kept thinking about was he kind of looks like Sam Bradford. And now he has a lot higher potential than Sam Bradford. But it just kind of reminded me of the whole thing where if it's not script, if it's not to the point that if it's not going his way, he's not going to make things happen. But when it is going his way, he'll make a lot of things happen. And I'm not talking about Sam Bradford now, who isn't even on an NFL roster. I'm talking a few years back.
Yeah, I'm probably an unfair comparison, but I think it's funny. I think it was interesting heading into the game. Heading into the season, really, I think everyone was kind of looking at this Patriots team, and as the year progressed, and this is a weaker Patriots team. I was just kind of looking at one of the bullet points that he has, like this end for the Patriots. And I think at this point, we really can't predict the end. I think the end is just when Tom Brady and Bill Belichick decide to leave on their own free will. Because I think heading into this year, I think quite a few people had him down and out. I think going into the playoffs, quite a few people had him down and out. And then they get in the playoffs and they just turn everything on. They're, played amazing. They crushed the Chargers. They played the Chiefs really well and ended up beating them in overtime, and then they dominate this past game. So, I don't think we can predict the end for the Patriots. I think the Patriots are basically the ultimate deciders of when their dynasty ends.
Kind of going off of that, Reece, I know we don't have this in the rundown, but we're going to do a little bit of off script here. Of course. Is it more, for you at least, in your eyes, because I have my own answer to this, is it more Brady or more Belichick, or is it an even amount that has made this? It's kind of a dynasty. It's kind of like almost two dynasties because there's that huge gap in the middle. But who's running the ship? Is it Brady or is it Belichick?
I'd have to give the keys to the coach, but I have to say that there's a reason why they've won them together.
Yeah, definitely.
I think both of them definitely deserve credit. I think Belichick deserves probably a smidge more credit because he is the head coach. There's been a lot of turnover, so he's had a lot of different coaching staffs and all that. And of course, Brady's had to deal with quite a fair bit of turnover too. He's seen some of his star receivers come and go, his tight ends come and go. He's had many brutal offensive lines before he's had good ones. But
definitely,
I think you give it a little bit more to Bill Belichick just because he's the one that's creating these schemes. He's the overall leader. But I think so much credit has to go to Tom Brady. I think at this point, without dispute, greatest player, greatest quarterback. It's amazing. This would only happen if both of them were so good and were able to sustain success for this long. But if you had to make me choose one, I'd have to say Bill Belichick.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm not trying to take anything away from Brady, but I don't really think Brady is Brady without Bill Belichick. Like, I don't know exactly how many rings he'd have without Bill Belichick, but it really seems like Belichick is the one who can somehow make the Rams score 3 points, one of the highest scoring offenses with a defense that is below average.
Yeah, and
that's amazing.
I don't think it's fair to do like that hypothetical. You're like, okay, what team is he on? I don't think it's really fair to do that. I know exactly where you're coming from. Like, okay, if he was, if you switch him and Peyton Manning, does Peyton Manning have the ability to win 6 and Brady have the ability to win 2? it's not fair to do that just because that's just how history worked out. I'm sure there's many players' careers that were ruined there, or they'd be Hall of Famers on one team, but were ruined by another coach. So, that's how it works out. I think just ultimately it was a great fit, and he was able to have the greatest NFL career based on number of Super Bowl trophies. So, but I understand the hypothetical question. I get it. I mean, because he's not the most amazing athlete.
Yeah, you can I think you're exactly right when you say that. If you take any quarterback away from the coach that he has, it's going to be kind of an unfair comparison. And you could say, oh, what's Breeze without Peyton? And any good quarterback is going to get worse when they have a great coach leaving their side.
Yeah,
it's just how it is. But here is, I think, kind of an interesting hypothetical. If Brady was with Sean Payton instead of Belichick, how many rings do you think he'd have?
I think he'd have more than one. I think he'd have more than one, in comparison to Breeze in that situation. I'd say maybe 2 or 3. I think because the Saints have just – if Brady was the quarterback on this Saints team, I think they might have had a perfect season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. The Saints team has infinitely more talent than the Patriots do.
Exactly. So, the Saints could have had a perfect season and probably would have won the Super Bowl with the team they had this year. And with this year's Tom Brady quarterbacking them. But, probably not as much with Bill Belichick or with Sean Payton. Maybe 2 or 3. And definitely not winning 6. But, once again, we're playing hypotheticals. Maybe they would have clicked as well. You never know. You don't know what kind of dynamic they have. And, maybe Drew Brees makes Sean Payton look better. Who knows? It's just hypothetical.
No, you're right. Yeah. You're right. It's a sticky situation to get into. But also, I think that it kind of Brady. I think you'd agree with me that Brady has shown signs of regression this year.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. Especially in comparison to last year too. It definitely has.
Yeah, definitely in comparison to last year. That's another reason why I'm kind of giving Bill Belichick more credit is because it seemed like he really schemed a great game plan this year. And that's kind of why I'm starting to wonder when the dynasty number 2 will be over, because how much longer can this go on if Brady takes another step down this next year? This is the first time we've seen Brady look mortal.
Yeah, right. Who knows? He could come, he could have a few more quinoa smoothies and be better even next year. So who knows, man? We're just going to have to watch and see. And that's the beautiful part about football and the NFL is we're not going to know until all the games are played next year. And we could be talking about the same fucking thing next year. We could have Brady had a great season and the Patriots won the Super Bowl again. Not even closely out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, if the Patriots win again next year, I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, you can't say they're not one of the top 4 to win every year because they basically play in the game every year. So
you're right. Brady will cut out a little bit of his kale diet and he'll be right back to normal.
Exactly.
All right. So moving on. Now we're going to talk a little hometown news. Chuck Pagano.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be back on the grass.
Yes.
He is the new Bears defense coordinator. For those of you who don't know, he was the head coach for Indianapolis for 6 years, I think, and brought them to the playoffs 3 times with Andrew Luck. He wasn't a great head coach, if we're being honest, but he was also the defensive coordinator of the 2011 Baltimore Ravens, who was a fantastic defense. And Ed Reed gives him a lot of credit for his development, and a lot of great players have given him a lot of credit. So, Reece, why don't you start this off? What do you think about this? Is it a good fit? Will the Bears defense take a step back?
I think it is a good fit. I do think the Bears defense would have naturally taken a step back, even if they had Vic Fangio from next year. I don't think you can expect this Bears defense to be as good as it, because they were amazing, probably the best in the league. I don't think you can expect them to be nearly as good as they were this year. But I think they'll be good. I think they're still definitely a top 10 defense, especially with the players that they have playing in there. Whether or not they're a top 5 defense, we'll see. I still definitely think that's in the realm of possibility. they're going to be a good team. I think the Bears are still going to be really competitive with that defense. I think the Bears are going to need a little bit of a step up from the Bears offense to be on the level where they were this year. And I know they have Super Bowl dreams and aspirations. So to get there, I think the offense is going to have to compensate for maybe a minor step back that the Bears defense might take. But I think that was naturally going to happen. I think, Vic Fangio leaving hurts, but it's not the worst thing in the world. As you said, Chuck Pagano, not the most amazing head coaching stint, but he did have like 3 11-5 seasons or something like that before he took two teams that didn't have Andrew Luck for the full season to 8-8. And then even when they didn't have Andrew Luck, they were 4-12, which seems awful. But looking at that Colts, when the Colts don't have a Andrew Luck that's playing at the top of their game, they're just an awful team. So
yeah, they're bad. They had a bad roster.
Yeah, so I think even as a head coach, I don't think he was bad. I think as a defensive coordinator, he can really focus on his system, and Nagy will give him the keys to that defense. I feel like he'll be able to make a lot with the tools that he has, because it's not that tough of a job to take. Okay, I got this Bears defense with two great edge rushers, a pretty damn good secondary,
Eddie Jackson,
one of the best safeties in the league at this point, and a pretty good linebacking core. It's not that hard to shape up a defense that's going to keep you in some games. So I'd say the Bears are still in good hands.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you're saying, where you can't always expect a defense to perform at the top of the league. It's just an unrealistic expectation. There's going to be injuries, there's going to be this, there's going to be that, just inconsistencies happen, especially on defense. As far as the fit with Chuck Pagano, I actually really like this fit. And I honestly think that this fit may be a better cultural fit for the Bears than what Vic Fangio was. And what I mean by that is Vic Fangio, as much as he was a good defensive coordinator, he was very, very conservative. I remember when we were at the Vikings game and you, Reece, said, you're like, why are you guys in prevent when there's 4 minutes left in the second half?
Yeah, exactly.
Before the half.
Very true.
Before the half. Mm-hmm. He used to do that a lot. He used to give up some kind of stupid points at the end of games. I'm not taking anything away from him. He was still a fantastic defense coordinator, but Chuck Pagano, his defensive scheme is really organized chaos. He does a really good job of doing different stunts, does a really good job with just giving different shadow looks, different shadow coverages, playing different fronts. And he's a 3-4 coordinator, which is going to make it a lot easier, the transition. And another thing that I like about him a lot is, A, he's the guy who coached Ed Reed, so that's going to probably help Eddie Jackson a lot. And B, he has a secondary background. And I'd say the weakest part of the Bears defense is their secondary. Now, there's 2 all-pro players in that secondary, so it can't be that weak. But at the same time, I think there is improvements that could be made. And I think that having Chuck Pagano could really help them in that area. And I really overall like the fit. I would be pretty shocked if the Bears defense wasn't one of the top 3 in the league next year, especially because I expect guys like Roquan Smith and Leonard Floyd to have even better years than they had last year, given how young they are. But I'm kind of interested to see how they manipulate the secondary, because there are some notable free agents coming up, like Adrian Amos and Bryce Callahan.
Yeah, and just before we move on, I'd say if Chuck Pagano can make Eddie Jackson even better and play like an Ed Reed type, and I wouldn't say Eddie Jackson's too far away from that Ed Reed type, because Ed Reed was a very opportunistic safety where he would get a lot of picks and he would be able to return them because he was extremely athletic. And Ed Reed also picked up a lot of fumbles, just like Eddie Jackson does. So they both have amazing instincts for the ball. If Chuck Pagano can refine them even more, then Eddie Jackson can definitely be a Hall of Fame player, just like Ed Reed is. I wouldn't even throw that out of the realm of possibility. Which is it's a bold statement to make, but I think, after witnessing 2 seasons of what Eddie Jackson can do, I don't think that's necessarily absurd. Now, with that being said, we'll see how it all turns out. And we can move on from this Chuck Pagano thing. We'll see with you got the question of, will Antonio Brown be traded?
Yes, but before we do that,
one little nugget I want to tell you.
Yeah. There's some rumors or some speculation that Ed Reed might actually join the Bears coaching staff
Okay, that would definitely be really
as
interesting.
assistant secondary coach, which I think would be really cool. I don't know how good of a coach he'll be, but honestly, for someone like Eddie Jackson, that would be fantastic if he could learn from someone like Ed Reed.
Yeah, for sure. And if I've seen anything about Ed Reed, it's he's amazing at motivating. I believe he's on the U Part 2, 30 for 30, where he's just like pumping everyone the fuck up.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I mean, he is crazy, man. So that'd be amazing
He
to
is.
see.
All right, give the transition.
All right, so let's discuss the fact of whether or not Antonio Brown will be traded from the Pittsburg Steelers. What do you think, Austin?
I think he will. He was spotted with a 49ers player just chilling out or hanging out during the Super Bowl, and the 49ers player posted on his Instagram, "Business is booming." I think he's gonna end up being traded. I don't know what exactly you could get for Antonio Brown at this stage in his career because he is a fantastic player, but he's getting up there in age
Right.
and he has a lot of diva issues, if you can't tell already. I could see the 49ers. I would say 49ers are odds-on favorites to land him.
Yeah, I've heard 49ers, everything regarding Antonio Brown. Well, not that's the case. We'll see. I mean, with these trade rumors, sometimes the front runner isn't the one that gets them. Sometimes, dark horse, kind of like the Bears with the Jay Cutler thing. There's a dark horse and they snuck up and got him. So,
or the Khalil Mack, even.
Very true, very true. So, I mean, we'll see how it all works out. I definitely think he'll be traded, though. I mean, I think, the Le'Veon Bell situation made that locker room toxic. I think this latest Antonio Brown situation makes it irreparable if they don't get rid of both Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. So, really, the Steelers organization backed themselves into this. Sure, Le'Veon Bell, a little bit of a diva player. Antonio Brown, sure, he could be a diva player too. Good teams know how to manage these diva players and get the talent out of them. Someone like Bill Belichick wouldn't let this slide. I don't think that someone like Sean Payton would let this slide. Any coach that really has ability to control a team, control a roster, would be able to harness the true potential out of them. I think Mike Tomlin's just kind of slacked, and I think, frankly, just been careless with his team and his locker room. I think that Antonio Brown needs to be gone, and I think that really, I've been saying this for a while. I've really been saying this for a while. I think now we're finally seeing this come undone, is that the Steelers have blown some of the best rosters in the NFL for probably about the last 4 or 5 years.
Definitely. You're 100% right when you say that. I mean, think about it. They had one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the game at the time.
Yeah.
The best running back in the game, the best wide receiver in the game, and one of the best offensive lines in the game.
Yeah.
How do you not do anything with that? And I think that it really gets to the core of the issue that in football, you just need good character guys in your locker room. You need guys that will believe in the system, and the Steelers never had that. And I think that's why you saw so many meltdowns and so many disappointing seasons from them every single year. But something that they also have a fantastic young wide receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I love that he said this past weekend is that he said the Steelers have to stop being like the Kardashians, which is so true and so upfront and something that Steelers organization needs to build off of.
Yeah, that's very true. And it means a lot when you're having someone that's a second-year player making a big comment about the organization like that.
Yeah.
I think it just shows you the state that they're in. But yeah, I mean, I think what the Steelers have done over the past 4 or 5 years have been sad. I think, if you're going to trade Antonio Brown, then maybe you give Roethlisberger 1 or 2 more years, but then you got to kind of re-tear this back down because this was your push, and you need to start back. And, of course, they got great players like Juju Smith-Schuster. They got other great young players like T.J. Watt. They have good young players on both sides of the ball. But, at some point, you haven't been able to get it done for a while now. So, you got to do something. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers, maybe pick up a quarterback or two, which they've been trying to do over the past few years. They've been picking up the wrong quarterbacks to try to get someone under Roethlisberger's wing, kind of a Garoppolo situation. Hopefully they manage it better. But, we'll see. I mean, I think the Steelers could be a bottom of their division team next year. It's possible.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think the hard thing about the Steelers is I feel like Big Ben is a part of the issue.
Right.
And when you have the quarterback, the leader of the team, being a part of the issue, getting in, because the whole reason why Antonio Brown wants to be traded is because of Big Ben. Now, how much it's each one of their faults, who knows? But when you have the leader of a team causing the drama, it makes everything else in the organization unstable.
Yeah, no, that's for sure, man. I mean, that's for sure. I think basically all the large names, I think, have a little bit of a stake in what the problem is. I think Mike Tomlin does. I think Ben Roethlisberger does. I think with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell still being on the team, I think they both have something to say about it. Juju Smith-Schuster's only been there for a couple of years. He seems to have his head on straight, so maybe not him, but all these big names are definitely responsible for the mess that they're in. But we'll see how it works out, man. I mean, I think this is definitely going to be one of the bigger headlines of the offseason. It's going to create some drama, and I don't know if you have any other comments about it, but if not, we can kind of like let the Antonio Brown thing be a transition right into how we think this offseason is going to go with free agency.
Yeah, definitely. So on the Truth Podcast right now, what we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit through some of the major free agents that are available and kind of give, if we think that they're going to stay there, if they're not, and if they don't stay there, who would they be a good fit with? So, Reece, why don't you start it off? The first player is DeMarcus Lawrence. He was franchise tagged this year, right?
I'm not 100% sure. You probably know more than I would on that, to be honest.
I think he was franchise tagged, so I think he's coming off of a tag year.
Okay. Yeah, I think DeMarcus Lawrence, Cowboys, great. Is he classified as defensive end or outside linebacker?
I think he's a 4-3 defensive end.
Okay, 4-3 defensive end. Okay. I mean, he's one of the he's a name that doesn't really get that much press, even though he's on one of the most popular teams, which is kind of weird. I don't know how that works out.
Yeah, it seems like Amari Cooper has more press than he does.
Yeah,
and he just got traded there.
Exactly, but DeMarcus Lawrence is definitely a really good player. If he did come off a tag, then he'll have a price for the Cowboys, but I think is one that the Cowboys should shell out. I think the Cowboys are getting a defense that's really developing, kind of coming into its own. It's probably actually the strongest part about that team, given that Dak can't really control the offense that much. I think the Cowboys right now have the identity of a team that can run the ball really well, and the defense can shut you down. If they plan on keeping that identity and hopefully building off of that, incorporating passing, they're going to need DeMarcus Lawrence to keep the defense solidified. He's definitely one of their best players, him. And then if they get Taco Charlton on the other edge, they're actually like a pretty good duo. So I think the Cowboys should definitely look to retain him. But if not, if he goes on the open market, he's going to be one of the bigger names and probably one of the best additions for any team that goes out and grabs him. I don't know if he'll be able to be interchangeable. If he's a 4-3 defensive end, I don't know if he would be interchangeable in a 3-4 system. So that'd be something.
I think he probably could.
That'd be something.
I think he probably.
Yeah, I mean, we'd see if a team that picks him up that runs a 3-4 would be able to manage that. But yeah, for one team that's looking for someone else on the edge, yeah, he'd be an amazing pickup.
So you think Dallas is where he's going to stay, though?
I would think so. I would think and hope so.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. DeMarcus Lawrence, I think, has solidified himself as one of the top 5 pass rushers in the game. Watching him, he's incredibly fast. Like one of the fastest, if not the fastest, defensive ends in the league. Really great player, and they got a great value out of him. I think he was a late first-round pick, if I remember correctly. I think Jerry Jones definitely should put out the money to keep him, and knowing Jerry Jones, they most likely will. I know the one situation that could potentially complicate this is the fact that Ezekiel Elliott has made it clear that he's probably going to hold out for a new contract. So are you going to pay Ezekiel Elliott the $15 million or $16 million, depending probably on the Le'Veon Bell contract that he's asking for? And you're going to give DeMarcus Lawrence something that's probably going to resemble or closely resemble the Khalil Mack deal. It's going to be a tough decision for the Cowboys. I don't know exactly how their cap situation is right now, but I think he's one of the most important aspects of that team and really is the face of the defense.
Yeah, I mean, now that you brought that up, I mean, that's definitely a really complicated scenario. And the cap is definitely a very real thing. So you have to lean towards the vibe that you get from the Cowboys camp is that Ezekiel Elliott would definitely be the number one priority in that situation. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So,
yeah. Okay. So next one we got is Jadeveon Clowney. Had some injury issues, was at one time labeled a bust. It seemed like in his second or third year. And then he single-handedly has kind of lived up to what his draft hype was. Actually, that's a bit of an overstatement. He's still developing, and he was super highly hyped coming out of college, but he's still a really good pass rusher.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one because I personally don't like the Texans at all because I think they're just a trash team.
Me neither.
So I think Jadeveon Clowney is not going to ever really live up to the hype that was given to him out of the draft. Maybe he's got a little bit more growing potential. I don't think he's really still as good as some people say he is. That being said, I don't think the Texans really have to shell out too much money to keep Jadeveon Clowney in their wraps. I don't think he would really break the bank for him. And if they do want to make a push again next year, they'd probably want him back. But that being said, I don't think this Texans team is aging well. I think J.J. Watt is declining. So maybe with that being said, with J.J. Watt declining so much, then you do keep Jadeveon Clowney to keep someone on that team that can really push that defense forward. Maybe I'm misgauging the interest around the league, but I feel like Jadeveon Clowney wouldn't get that much money in free agency. I think he's essentially kind of a Kevin White, but in which he got really good one season.
True.
So we'll see how that works out. You could have a totally different viewpoint than I do on that, though.
Yeah, I'm a little bit mixed on this as well. You'd think the issue is that they do have that Watt contract and they do have Jadeveon Clowney. And at this point, Watt is still better than Clowney, but Watt is also consistently injured and getting really old. So you have to think into the future and be like, you know what, should we potentially move Watt and potentially keep Clowney? Which they would never do because J.J. Watt is a Texans legend. But I'm kind of leaning towards that the Texans won't keep him.
Okay.
And the reason why that is because I think he'll want more money than is realistic for him because he knows that they're in free agency. When a pass rusher, even of his talent, reaches it, there's a big payday on the other end of that. And I don't know if the Texans right now are in the position, especially with the state of that offensive line, to be shelling out a decent sized contract like that. That offensive line needs a lot of work.
Yeah, probably not on the top of their priority list. I think the Texans are just in a bad situation in general, which could be harsh, but that's how I feel. They
got beat pretty badly by the Colts in the wild card game, so I don't think that's harsh at all. I think they were probably one of the most overrated teams in the entire league this year.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see what they do. Definitely got a lot of holes to fix, as you brought up. I think, like you said, if he does hit the open market, he'll probably have a nice payday on the end. But I guess he'll be interesting to watch, but probably not quite as interesting to watch as Le'Veon Bell.
Wait! I need to give my team pick.
Oh, you got a team pick for this one already?
Yeah, I do.
All right,
I do. I don't know if it's a prediction, but I think it would be a good fit for him to go to the division rival Colts.
Oh, damn.
He gets a little bit mad because they disrespect him with the contract he gets. He gets a big payday and goes with Frank Reich's Colts, and he whoops the Texans' ass all year again.
That would be crazy, dude. I love it. But, I think someone who's definitely garnered headlines for the past couple of years because he's had an ongoing franchise tag holdout situation that seems to never end is Le'Veon Bell. I can tell you this. He's definitely not going to be on the Steelers. I think that's for sure.
No, he's not.
I think if the Steelers wanted him, they would have signed him a long time ago. And Connor, did kind of live up to his hype, or at least surpassed it, definitely. James Conner, that is. So, I think we talked about what Le'Veon's landing spot was quite a few times on the podcast already throughout the year. I'm not even going to touch it.
He's constantly talked about. He's one of the Kardashians on that team.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the names that's always attached to him was the Jets. I've heard the Eagles. I think, the 49ers are attached to every big name these days just because they're an up-and-coming team. I really have no clue where Le'Veon Bell would land. I mean, there's looking at quite a few teams that are interested in him. He's going to get a sizable payday, but I can definitely tell you he's not going to be on the Steelers this upcoming year. He will be somewhere else. The question is, where is that else? And I'm not actually 100% sure. I don't know if you have anything if you have a prediction for that one, Austin.
I think you summed it up really well. If the Steelers wanted to keep him, they would have made a lot of different arrangements previously to let that happen.
Right.
That being said, I don't see him going to the 49ers because they did sign Jerick McKinnon a year ago, which people forget about, and they gave him a massive deal for his production. And then towards ACL this year. So I don't really see him landing there. I think the Jets would be a good landing spot for him. Sam Darnold, who has a ton of potential, desperately needs some talent. And I think Adam Gase would look at Le'Veon Bell and say, you know what? It's okay if we bring you into our locker room because we have nothing good to ruin anyways. So,
that's very true.
I think that's where he lands.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think I'm not going to say burdened out Le'Veon Bell throughout the year, but I think we've hit him quite a few times.
Yeah, I'm tired of talking about him, to be honest, but we have to.
Yeah, very true. So let's just move on to Earl Thomas then, who wasn't he contemplating in retirement? Am I not wrong about that, or?
I think you're thinking of
Cam Chancellor.
Yeah, Cam Chancellor.
Everyone on that damn Seahawks team. I actually think Earl Thomas was, just because he's getting injured so much, but I could be wrong. But with that being said, I don't think the Seahawks will keep him.
No, I don't either. I remember. Do you remember him flicking off Pete Carroll after he got injured when he was holding out?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, very true. So I don't think he's definitely not coming back to Seattle. I think the question is, where does he move to? And you know what? Let me put this. I'm going to say this. I don't even know how much cap space they have, but I tell you what team this would be characteristic of. The Minnesota Vikings will end up getting someone like Earl Thomas, okay? Because they're stupid.
Like they signed Sheldon Richardson last year. Now it's the next Seahawk.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. I think it'll be someone like the Minnesota Vikings will get him just because it doesn't make any sense, and the Vikings are going to want to hear their name being called. So,
honest, that's a great statement. They just want to be known.
Yeah. So that's all I gotta say on that one. I think Earl Thomas, I think he's getting washed up. Well, that was a pretty hard study right there. But
that's saying it.
But I would say that any team that picks him up, unless it's for the right price, which is going to be a low one, I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, I'm going to say that it's going to end up being the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, that's a good call, too, because he played for Texas.
Yeah, he notably, like 2 years ago, he told Jason Garrett to come after him in free agency after the Seattle-Dallas game. So that's what's kind of given me that. And I know that the NFL recently looked into possible tampering situation between Dallas and him. So that gives me the thought that he probably will go to Dallas. And it seems like something Jerry Jones would do instantly.
Very true. Very true. Jerry Jones and Minnesota Vikings. Don't put it past either of them. So
no, don't. Really don't.
I like this next one, though. I like Nick Foles. This is definitely a talking point right here.
Yeah. So Nick Foles, the guy who ended the Bears season, kind of. No. It was really Cody Parkey. Yeah. He was a part of it. It was really Cody Parkey, but he was a part of it. What do you think about that? He's not. I know. Actually, I think that he was his option was picked up by the Eagles, so he will have to seek out a trade partner, but he's going to get traded. So
yeah, okay. So let me put it this way: I think the Eagles did that because they're going to get a lot of return. What team, though? I think is a really good question right now because I think a lot of teams are skeptical because like the whole Brock Osweiler thing. A lot of teams they just want to draft. They want to draft their quarterback. Getting someone like Nick Foles is a high-risk situation because you don't know if he's going to work in your scheme. Obviously, he worked really well. I'm blanking on the Eagles coach's name right now. But he worked
Doug Peterson?
Doug Peterson. He worked really well in Doug Peterson's system. They were good buddies for a long time. It worked out really well. Got a Super Bowl for him. But, man, who will he go play for? You know, I could see the Buccaneers going after someone like him.
Oh my God!
Especially with Bruce Arians being back, because Bruce Arians took someone that I would say is comparable to Nick Foles and Carson Palmer.
Yeah, you're right.
And made a career out of him. So I could see the Buccaneers. Who are other teams that are really looking for a quarterback? There's a lot of teams that need a quarterback, but they'd probably rather draft them.
Yeah, no, you're 100%.
Let me throw this dark horse in there. The Ravens get rid of Flacco, and they don't trust Lamar Jackson, so they end up getting Nick Foles. How about that?
That would be insane. That would be quite the twist. I don't know if I trust Lamar Jackson. So,
or inside the division, the Bengals could be in the quarterback hunt too.
Yeah, they could, and they just got the Rams QB coach, so maybe he sees something in Nick Foles that.
Who knows? I mean, yeah, you can keep talking about that because I don't know where
I've got a fit for you.
I've got a fit.
I've got a
Minnesota, huh?
Yeah. No, it could be. Who knows? They went after Sam Bradford. They struck out. They went after Kirk Cousins. Now it's Foles' time. But no. In reality, I think that probably the best situation. Now, this is going to depend solely on what the team feels like they would like to do in the draft, right? You're 100% right. Teams don't want to be going after veterans who are making just their career off of being in the playoffs. And it was not too long ago where Nick Foles was playing in the regular season and looked terrible.
Yeah.
That being said, I think that the New York Giants would be the fit for him. Now, they already have a system built around a quarterback that's a pocket passer, kind of similar to him and Eli Manning.
And pretty mediocre.
Pretty mediocre. So many things that step up. Okay. But it's hard because I don't know what it would require to trade for him. Like, I don't think they get a first round pick for him. I think maybe a second rounder.
Yeah, I was thinking a second, a couple of players.
Yeah, it could. Yeah,
I think this could definitely be a draft time trade. I think when the buzz starts circling around or something like that. But yeah, I mean, that's actually a really good point with the New York Giants, and it's a big time team that has some players in there to win now. So maybe they try to rush the rebuild a little bit.
Here's the one complicated factor. They're in the same division.
That makes it so much harder.
Two teams right now in their division need quarterbacks. The Redskins and the Giants. And they both have relatively good offensive coaches. I mean, Jay Gruden, you can say what you want. He's not the best offensive head coach, but he's better than a lot of other coaches in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
He's mediocre is what I'm trying to say. And he helped develop Kirk Cousins, who's kind of like him, to be honest. I feel like that. Would the Giants be willing to give up a first round pick for him? Because they're going to need to really sell the trade. Yeah. And I don't know if you trust in Dwayne Haskins or Kyler Murray enough to, go after them and hope that they develop before you have to pay Saquon and Odell is getting older.
This is a quarterback class that's going to make Nick Foles look really good.
Yeah. You're right. That's a great way to say it. And I think that the Eagles kind of see that and they understand that they could get some extra value because I don't think them claiming his option is going to sway anybody away from trading for him.
Yeah, to be honest, he probably has an even better value than he did going into last year because this quarterback class is just I don't think we have a good quarterback class in a while, but this year's one is. We're talking about a quarterback from Duke. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a reach, you know.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a reach. That's for sure.
But we'll see. I don't really have much else to say about Nick Foles, though.
I don't either. So another Eagle, Ronald Darby, he tore his ACL, I believe, and that's why I didn't play. But he was a good cornerback when they won their Super Bowl last year. What do you think, Reece?
I think like with the corner position, I think it can be fleety sometimes, right? We saw Revis. That was an interesting situation when he got moved to the Buccaneers. He didn't really perform nearly as well. Then he moved back onto the Patriots, and
then the Jets.
he reboosted his career once he got back on the Patriots, and he made money again on the Jets. So, yeah, I mean, life goes full circle. But I think corners you have to be careful with because I think corners are really a big system fit. I'm not 100% sure what they're running in Philadelphia, if they're more man or zone based, but I think Ronald Darby is probably someone that fits in the system really well. And if he's moving somewhere else that is unlike their system, it could be like it won't be a good fit. That's exactly what I'm saying. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not sure what teams are really in the big market for someone in the secondary right now. Maybe Green Bay, you think, a little bit?
Possibly.
I mean,
I wouldn't even doubt the Lions. I know they got Slay, but on the other end, they got nobody.
Yeah, it's just hard these days because of the defensive player classes that we're getting are bringing out such great secondary talent. Some of the corners and safeties that have been picked in the last 3-4 years are some of the best in the league already, and have really brought a lot of skill back into pass defense. So whenever you're talking about a veteran free agent, you almost go, well, we could probably get something better in the draft. And that's just because the defensive classes these past few years have been so amazing. So, we'll see. I mean, I'm not sure where someone like Ronald Darby's value is really at. I don't pay nearly enough attention. And of course, he's not a name. He's not a
torn ACL.
Yeah, and for someone that's going to be using that a lot, like it's a skill position. That's a hard sell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Darby, I think he's definitely I like the point that you bring up that cornerback is a lot about scheme fit. I know you're obviously a Chargers fan, and you know of one player who didn't fit a scheme very well and now is an all-pro player in Casey Hayward with the Chargers. Green Bay, you pretty much got him for free from them. And then another Green Bay player, Micah Hyde, who is a fantastic safety with the Buffalo Bills. So that definitely is something you have to be very conscious about. Again, it seems like defensive coordinators like to draft and develop their cornerbacks. It's difficult to just put one in a system. A lot of it has to do with chemistry, I feel like.
Definitely.
Between the two cornerbacks, I mean, Fuller and Prince Amukamara, when they were apart, were pretty much nothing. And together, let's not forget Eddie Jackson in there. They've been two really good safeties. As far as a fit goes, they're looking at kind of a complicated situation. I like the Browns taking him or getting him. They have a relative amount of cap space, and I feel like they're kind of desperate to win now after being so bad for so many years. This is probably I can't even believe the Browns are possibly going to be good next year. That's like one of the first times in our lifetime. But putting him across from God, I'm blanking on his name right now, the Ohio State cornerback.
Yeah.
That they drafted.
Yeah, I'm forgetting his name.
What's his name? Denzel Ward. Who's a really good player. I think that'd be a really good addition to the secondary for them. But again, there's a lot of positions that you can kind of say that with. I think that whoever sees him and knows that what he can do will fit their scheme is a team that will take a flyer on him. Yeah,
that's very true. And then Tyrann Matthiew, who is next up.
Confusing career to this
very
point.
Confusing career. I think someone who's very dominant in his position and someone who's really versatile. And defensive coordinators love a player like him because he can come up to the line of scrimmage, play in the box. be that run defense. They can also really good in pass defense. Rangy, has great ball skills, a true talent, but injury plagued. I don't know if he's had a season where he hasn't been injury plagued. Off the field issues. So there's a lot of things that kind of mars like his character. So I don't really know what teams they wouldn't go for him, to be honest.
So I don't think he'll stay with the Texans. He's a great strong safety, one of the best in the game in my eyes. And the strong safety market has been kind of devalued recently. I think we saw with a lot of random, like pretty decent strong safeties getting 0 contracts last offseason with like Kenny Vaccaro and Trey Boston.
Yeah.
Really, really kind of weird thing that's happening in the NFL right now. And this prediction is going to kind of give you a little insight into what I'm going to say about a player in the future. I think that I wouldn't rule out the Bears going after Tyrann Matthiew, because I feel like at this point the Bears are just looking for anything that will put them over the edge. Kind of what the Rams did last season, where, maybe you take on a couple character players because you have a good locker room already. And if you can get them to believe in the team, it shouldn't be an issue. And the Bears, I feel like, really view next year as their best chance. Their year, their best chance. Second year in the system for the offense. The offense is obviously going to take a step forward. And I think that Tyrann Matthiew is a much better player than Adrian Amos. And I think that he could really help with the tackling on the back end, which seemed like to be the biggest flaw in the Bears defense last year. And I know that Chuck Pagano also likes his strong safeties to be a little bit more rangy than what Adrian Amos is. That's why I think it would be a decent fit. I don't know if I think that would be a good fit for him. Other teams that I could think of is maybe the Packers. They need a safety. Any safety needed team, really.
Yeah, I think what you brought up about the strong safety is really interesting. And for a strong safety, the Honey Badger is untypical for a strong safety too. I mean, of course, Trey Boston was kind of rangy too. I don't know if there's a rangy or strong safety in the league than Tyrann Matthiew. If that's being the case, what you said about Chuck Pagano, then that could very well happen. I wouldn't rule that out. I take it then you're going to believe that Adrian Amos will leave the Bears.
Yes.
I don't necessarily. We'll see. I'll bring up my point about that. But I could see him. He's going to go to a pretty complete defense already. I don't think there's going to be any teams that are going to try to build their defense around him. I think he's going to try to be a component in a system. So
you know who you want to know something? You know who I could see getting him to?
Who?
The Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, probably. You can't rule the Vikings out of any of these names because they're going to want to hear their name called. But but I could see the Bears picking him up, and we'll transition this into Amos because I don't have anything else to say on Tyrann Matthiew. I think Amos has been an interesting part of the Bears defense. I think last year you're telling me all about how great he was in Pro Football Focus. I think ranked him as the number one strong safety or something like that. You were giving him a lot of compliments. I think this past year he was hurt on and off, or no?
No, he might have had a couple lingering issues, but for the most part, I think he was healthy.
Okay, I mean, and before he's definitely been hurt though. He's struggled a little bit with that. It'll be interesting to see how Chuck Pagano rules him. I don't know everything down position like you might already. So if he looks a little bit more rangy of a strong safety than Adrian Amos could be on his way out. But I wouldn't put it past him staying, though. I think there's going to be some people that are retained on that Bears defense. Eddie Jackson's going to keep getting better. With that being said, if the Bears see Adrian Amos as something that's not going to get better, the Bears might get rid of Adrian Amos based on the fact that they might think the teams will stop targeting the side of the field that Eddie Jackson is on and probably pick on Adrian Amos. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes on. I think Adrian Amos is a good hard-hitting safety. I think there'll definitely be a market for him. But, it's hard to pick someone like Adrian Amos like a landing spot for him, just because he might not be that high expensive player. It might not be that big of a
Yeah.
contract, so he could really fall anywhere. So
Yeah.
that's all I gotta say.
I think that the Bears are going to let Amos walk. And the reason that is that I feel like I kind of fell into the Pro Football Focus trap a little bit on Adrian Amos. He's very good at what he does. Very, very good at what he does. But what he does is usually not complex whatsoever.
Right.
Eddie Jackson is the safety on the Bears defense, right? You could pretty much stick any supporting role player next to Eddie Jackson, and it will help him a lot. The Bears last year played almost strictly single deep because Adrian Amos isn't that athletic, so he plays better closer to the line. And I think I really think that he might be a system fit player, someone that plays very well in Vic Fangio's defense, and someone that we've gotten a great value out of the 6th round. I just don't think that Ryan Pace will look at Adrian Amos and say, because he's going to want a bigger deal because Pro Football Focus gives him a lot of hype, and he has a lot of hype in general. I don't see Ryan Pace looking at him and saying, this is a key piece of our defense that we need to retain. And at this point in the Bears, where the Bears are at, I don't see Ryan Pace going for a player that he believes might not even be the best fit for that position, the best fit for our team, and shelling out $6 million plus for him. And I think that he'll probably end up landing in Denver with Vic Fangio.
That's a solid prediction. Definitely a solid prediction. So if you want, we can move on to our final player, who is Trey Flowers of the Super Bowl winning New England Patriots.
Yep. Me and Ryan were both wrong about that. Reece, you were the only one that got it right. I always fall into the same trap every single year.
Yeah.
I forgot to say this. You always think the Patriots are done, and they're never done.
Yeah, exactly.
Because no matter how bad they are, Bill Belichick always pulls it out.
Yeah, that's very true. And you got to avoid that trap. Sometimes your inkling of you might be someone else has to be your tipping point to go for the Patriots. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't know too much about Trey Flowers. I'm going to be straight up and honest about that. I don't know what his, I want to say budget. That's not the right word. But like how much his value? Yeah, his value will be, So if you want to kind of just explain that, run that off, I'll open the floor to you on this one.
So Trey Flowers, he's not really a big name, like as far as when you say who's some of the best pass rushers in the league. But from everything that I've read, from everything that I've heard, is that as far as coaches go, and I remember specifically also Matt Nagy talking about this in one of his press conferences, coaches in the NFL view him as a big name because he does a lot of good things. He just kind of flies under the radar because he's on the Patriots, and the Patriots always do good things, Kind of reminds me of like Chandler Jones when he was with the Patriots before he got traded to Arizona. He kind of flew under the radar. But I think that he's probably going to end up leaving the Patriots. I don't see Bill Belichick tends to not like to shell out big contracts. I see him getting a relatively big contract. I'd say maybe $15 million a year. Not the highest in the league, but still a really sizable contract for an edge player. I do think he's going to leave New England, as I said, and I think the best fit for him, kind of going off of the same ideology with Adrian Amos, is going to end up being the Detroit Lions, who need some edge presence and have a bit of cap space. I also think a potential fit could be the Miami Dolphins, where Brian Flores is going. But I would say that the Detroit Lions will be willing to overpay him to get him there, just to get some edge presence and make that defense better.
Yeah, I could see that. That definitely makes sense. I think there's a few teams out there in the market for an edge rusher, but Detroit is kind of a name that sticks out, and they're probably going to be playing catch up in the arms race that's going on in the NFC North and with teams generally catching up to the Bears, which is, not something I thought I'd be saying. But, that's
dude,
really,
I did not think I'd be saying that either.
right. Do you have anything else you want to conclude or wrap up with, or?
No, I just have one major shout out I want to give to Larry Recub. He is the first commenter on our Instagram page, and he gave us a great little novel about Reece here on the podcast. And he very much believed that Reece was Reece Davis.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll take that as a compliment because I think Reece Davis is kind of a iconic name in college sports at this point. Sitting there on the game day panel, so Reece Davis, you get a hold of this. You found your doppelganger as far as voices go and in names. So I'm definitely gonna need you to pull me up as one of the guest pickers when you come out here to NIU for college game day. So with that being said, big shout out to Larry though. Coming through on the gram, definitely love it.
I'm not sure if he actually listens to the podcast, but
we cannot confirm or deny.
Yeah, we cannot confirm or deny. If he does, big fan of him. First commenter on our Instagram page. So
if not, he's getting a big shout out that he doesn't even know about, so he's missing out.
That's true.
But big props to him. Shouts out to Delaware as always. Shouts out to all
Chuck
you listeners.
Chuck Pagano.
And for you Bears fans out there, shouts out to Chuck Pagano. And thank you for sticking with us for a full football season. We are not going anywhere. We're definitely going to keep making these. But, this is one football season in the books for the Truth Football Podcast, and we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep going throughout the off season.
A lot of different off-season topics. Maybe do a mock draft or a draft situation. Talk more about free agency, of course, and big moves that will be happening. The off-season in the NFL has to be the most exciting off-season out of any sports. Period. I would say. Always a lot of big changes and fun storylines to talk about.
Yeah, this is huge, and so thank you guys for listening. Have a great day, great night whenever you are watching this, and we'll definitely catch you on the next podcast.
See you guys later.